Good day, I'm Dave Robertson, and today I want to share a story of a landlord and tenant board dispute. So I took a new listing 4 or 5 months ago. It was a home that was tenant occupied. The landlord was elderly and had severe medical issues. She had decided to sell the home to help pay for medical expenses and to help care for her family. All went well at the beginning. We signed the paperwork, we met the tenant at the home, they let us in, we took pictures, we prepared our marketing material, everything was good, and the home went on the multiple listing service live, and within a couple days we started receiving our showing requests. Our first showing went extremely well. It was a gentleman, his wife couldn't attend with him that time, but he went on his own with his real estate agent, and they loved the home. So much so that they called for a second showing the very next day. Now, meanwhile, the tenant, being cooperative up to this point, we discovered was in severe financial hardship, and he now has this prospect that his home's for sale. The first showings come in, obviously it went well. There's a second showing request. Oh my goodness, this home I'm living in is going to sell quickly, and I'm going to be evicted. And so he entered fight or flight mode, and unfortunately for us, he decided to fight. And he was between a rock and a hard place where nowhere to go. He didn't have resources to help him pay for a move or to find a new home. And he felt, I have to do everything in my power to ensure that I can stay in this home as long as possible. So when we submitted future showing requests, even though 24-hour notice had been provided in writing, he refused all showings. Now, this is a basic right of the landlord. The landlord has the right to enter the home for various purposes, one of them being for the purpose of showing the home to a potential buyer, provided that notice is given with 24-hour notice, and that the hours is between, I think, 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. We ensured that we were all well within those parameters, always giving sufficient notice. Yet the tenant continually refused to show the property to this potential buyer and all future potential buyers, and there was dozens upon dozens of them. The home was well priced, it was a beautiful condition, and I have to say, very well marketed. And so unsurprising that the market reacted very strongly to it. Now, this first gentleman who saw the home, he loved it so much, and even though his wife didn't see it yet, he didn't want to miss out on this opportunity. So him and his agent actually submitted an offer to purchase on the home, conditional on two things. Conditional on the wife, of course, seeing it, and conditional on a home inspection. So we began negotiating this agreement of purchase and sale, and we agreed on almost all the terms. We were getting the final signatures. But I knew it's still those two conditions. It's conditional on a showing, conditional on a home inspection. The tenant was continuing to refuse to cooperate. So I confronted him, I explained the situation, I explained that, by now I should say, we also gave him notice of eviction, that we had applied for a hearing with the Landlord and Tenant Board to have him evicted, and because he was clearly and knowingly, willfully violating the landlord's rights. And so under the N5 form that we submitted, he had a 15-day eviction notice. Now, if we sell the home, he would have a minimum of 60-day eviction notice. And so I was trying to explain to him, if you cooperate with us, you'll actually be able to stay in your home longer. And he revealed his whole hand there, his cards that he was playing, and he basically explained that he knows that if he was this application to be evicted first has to go through a hearing, and then a board order, and then there's a process that he can appeal the order and drag out the process. And in his mind, he figured he could stay in his home longer than 60 days if he dug his heels in and fought tooth and nail. So unfortunate for us, we had to fight. We had to go through the process, cross our T's, dot our I's, and we were finally appointed a hearing date with the Landlord and Tenant Board. And what's interesting during this time, unfortunate, is the landlord succumbed to her medical condition and she passed away. And I presented myself at the Landlord and Tenant Board, explained the scenario, and the member of the board was quick to see cut through all the gray and see it black and white here that the tenant was clearly and knowingly violating the rights of the landlord, refusing to cooperate. It resulted in a loss of sale, which meant financial damages to my client. And I left that morning from the board feeling at least good in that I represented my client well, and that a fair resolution would become of this. We didn't want to evict him right then and there, but we need to have resolution and be allowed to continue to sell the home. It was in my client's will. She had expressed clear directions that she wanted the home to continue to sell, and the proceeds to be dispersed in such a manner to her family. So I left the board that morning feeling that a fair resolution was going to come about. But when I received the notice in the mail several weeks later, and to my, I guess, shock or disappointment, the board actually ruled in favor of the tenant, even though the tenant had no supporting evidence that he clearly and knowingly violated all the rights. The board still ruled in favor of the tenant. He did not need to evict. In fact, he did not need to cooperate. He did not need to show the home. He did not need to allow entry to the home. He did not need to give a key to the home. He only had to do those things after an estate trustee had been appointed, or an executor of the will, you might say. So the member knew that the landlord had recently passed, and there had not been enough time for an estate trustee to be appointed. And I guess he figured that why evict someone when the home will just sit there vacant? Let's let the tenant stay in the home until an estate trustee has been appointed, and then you can resume the process of trying to market the home for sale. And then, and only then, does the tenant need to cooperate. So we find myself in this position where you try to do the right thing. You try to cross your T's and dot your I's and trust in the system that a fair resolution will come about, that there's a landlord who's in great need, who has every right and motivation and fairness to sell her home with legitimate reasons, and she's penalized, or an unfair resolution is come about, and it's very disappointing. I find myself in a position where I can either sell the home or even cancel the listing because there's no one left to sign until an estate trustee has been appointed. So I feel bad for the family of my clients, and disappointed in the system. I know that this is just one horror story, that not all landlord-tenant issues or experiences have such negative stories to tell, and that for every one of my stories like this, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of great, wonderful, successful landlord-tenant relationships and investment properties. But in this particular situation, it was a bit of a disappointment, and I feel that the system has failed on this one. Thanks so much for watching. If you have a story of your own to tell, I'd love to hear it, and you can give me a call. I'll take you out to coffee anytime. Thanks for watching again. I'm Dave Robertson, your real estate professional for life.